Experiência FX The Action Unit, painel com Wesley Barnett e Lucas Loureiro. Para falar um pouquinho do Wesley para vocês, Wesley Barnett é um sócio da produtora The Action Unit, FX com mais de 18 anos de experiência no setor, ou supervisor de efeitos especiais. Wesley Barnett tem uma excelente reputação por produzir efeitos especiais seguros, inovadores, criativos e de alta qualidade para filmes e TV. Tem em seu currículo como Mad Max, Ben-Hur, Assassin's Creed, Velozes e Furiosos 6, Coração de Ferro, Invictus e Diamante de Sangue, entre outros. Já Lucas Loureiro é formado no curso de cinema de Nova York, com bacharelado em cinema na New York University. Como diretor de fotografia, assina os filmes Casarão Amarelo, com direção de João Paulo Saraceni, O Casamento de Goretti, Where Beauty Rings e 225 gramas. Na direção de fotografia de documentários, fez o premiado Virando a Página sobre a educação do sistema penal. E Diga Meu Nome, sobre a luta da mudança de nome na comunidade trans.
So, Wesley, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us in this conversation and being a part of this outreach program that we're trying to build bridges around the world and communicate with other professionals. And I just want to start off asking you about your experience, and if you could introduce yourself to everyone as where you come from and a little bit of your background professionally and personally.
Thank you very much for getting me involved with your project. It's an honor to get involved with you guys and to that you're interested in hearing the story and everything. But in 2001, I was studying to become a mechanical engineer, and a friend of mine who was working in the film industry at the time, he was working as an extra, a good mate of mine, Jonathan, and he started in the special effects world. And it was a small company in South Africa, Monster FX, where they were starting with a few newer guys that were sort of getting into the industry. They weren't doing feature films or anything. They were more of a commercial company. And they called me one day. I think I was only 18 years old. I never had a driving license. And they called me to shoot a Coca-Cola commercial in South Africa. And I was driving the water truck. And that's how I got into the film industry. It was a pretty loose industry in South Africa back in 2001, but it was sort of on the brink of becoming a bigger industry at the time. But South Africa was mainly doing its own local projects and things like that. But then 2002, it started to really boom. I'd say in South Africa in 2002, we started getting a lot of international projects and things really just started booming from there. And I think I ended up leaving. I ended up leaving the college where I was studying, where I was busy studying mechanical engineering, and I started doing special effects full time. Yeah, it was something that you got addicted to. It was really it was just something I was supposed to be doing on weekends while it was paying for my studies, but I ended up we did really well for the first I think for the first 5 years we were doing really, really well in South Africa. And then I met someone that ended up bringing me over to Spain. I met a girl, and she was in the film industry with us. We came over to Spain, and 3 years ago, nearly 4 years ago, I started a company called The Action Unit, which is a special effects company. We're based here in Barcelona, and it's really just been doing so well. It's been amazing. We've had really good support from all the local productions and things like that.
It's actually pretty funny, Wesley, because when you talk about your history of how you came into the industry, I found a lot of parallels with my own history, where I also was an engineer student. And 18 years old, I started on my first film.
Really?
And yeah, so really? It's pretty, I mean, if we look, people from outside the industry, they don't know that a lot of us come from technical backgrounds and come from things that are much more logic oriented than, let's say, a passion oriented, you know? I mean, we're people who look at logic and look at framing and look at trying to understand the world through numbers and math. And then we come into the cinema and we say, oh, that's how I want to see the world also. And maybe that makes more sense. So, I mean, I see a lot of people in our industry not being stereotypically passionate people, artists, but also logical people. So I found that interesting parallel. And
I'm losing you a little bit. I've got a terrible line with you at the minute. I'm sorry. I'm getting every third word though. I'm still with but stuttering terribly.
That's too bad. But I'll just try to synthesize it a bit. It's basically just trying to talk about how we see the world through numbers and through logic, and that we both came from a more academic or here in Brazil, we have a distinction when we go into college, and it's human college or logic college. And one is exact. So the human would be more things that don't take into account math, physics, or chemistry, and the exacts would be things that take into account all those math, history, or math, chemistry, and physics. And a lot of people ask, oh, but you do cinema, so what's your specification? I say, no, it's both, because we have to take out the logics and the human part of relationships.
It's true. It is quite complicated, but I always say the job's easy. It's dealing with the people that's quite difficult in the film industry. I always say I think the job is quite simple. It's the dealing with the people part that can sometimes be tricky.
And that's what brings us to what we're living today with our new protocols, where we have to get tests and work the whole day with a mask in front of us and with a face shield. I mean, I did a job a few weeks ago where I have no idea the faces of anyone on set because I hadn't worked with them before and I only saw them with the mask. If I bumped into them today on the street, I wouldn't know what they look like. And in many points when you're on set, you know, you look to a colleague and you want to mouth out to them like, oh. And you can't mouth out with the mask in front of you. So it's created these logistical problems for us that we really would never have suspected. And have you been on set lately with the new protocols, or are you guys with the lockdown working just from home?
I'm losing a lot of what he's saying, but I think that if I understood everything, you asked me about the protocols, yeah?
Yes.
How is life with the new protocols?
Yes.
We're surviving. It's what we said earlier, that it's never been an easy job. And now with the protocols and everything, it's made it a lot more difficult. But I'm quite proud of the way that it is going. And I do realize that as the film industry, I think we've got to be extra careful. I don't know why, but I always feel that it's an industry that they will definitely look after, and there's interest in making sure of safe working practices. I've always said it that for their own best interest, you know, I mean, it's within all the big feature films to look after and to make sure that everyone is in a safe working environment. It's always been really strict health and safety on set. And I think with the COVID, it's just going to be an extra safety measure that we'll end up taking. I think that they will. I think really the way they're doing it, I know in England with the pod systems, and they keep shutting the people down just into they got so well isolated that I think they will definitely crack the code for us to through the COVID. No matter how bad it gets, I think they'll be able to shut it down and to keep the, which was quite tricky. It seemed like an impossible task, but I think they're doing quite well. We haven't quite got to that stage here in Spain yet, but it's because there hasn't been big international film shot here since the COVID. I lie, they've just finished Enchanted, which was a fairly big production that came to Spain. And they did that very well. There was a few cases. There was a few cases of or potential cases. I'm not sure how it panned out amongst the crew members, but they reckon that none of it was caused on set, if you know what I mean. It was all the one or two people that read positive, if I'm not mistaken, were all contracted out of the work environment, which is quite a good thing. And they were isolated, and no one got any further contingencies, which that was quite good. So I think to answer the question, I think that it is a lot more difficult, but I also think that it's something that they will definitely crack down on and get a solution to work around. I think it's one of the few things that we can actually work around. I think they've already found the ways to work around the COVID. I think it's quite. But it will come at a cost. It will come at a cost. I mean, there is an additional cost to everything now, which Laia was explaining to me that it's not coming out of the budgets or something at the minute. I'm not quite sure how they're working it financially, but there is they'll have to in the cost margin something extra. There was always cost for health and safety, but there's going to have to be a fairly higher cost for that, not just due to the COVID. But it's worth it. It's one of those things where, as always, health and safety, that's the truth, is that health and safety always gets looked upon as secondary cost or something not important until it's absolutely necessary. And I think people will start to take that more serious now with the COVID. With the COVID, definitely.
And Wesley, I just wanted to backtrack a little bit because you were talking about the beginning of your professional experience. And I also shot in the deserts of Namibia for an independent project, a small feature, and it was beautiful place to shoot in, but also very, very difficult in terms of logistics of shooting in the desert, in the dunes, with sand and everything. And I want you to maybe share with us how was your experience on working on Mad Max, and how was shooting the scenes, and anything interesting you might be able to share with us.
The beginning part of what you were saying, sorry, I lost everything in the beginning. I never heard a word. I'm quite sure what we.
I was saying that I also shot in Namibia, and that for I don't know if you knew that, but I shot in Namibia for a feature film and had a great time, and found it one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And I wanted to know if you could share with us a little bit of your experience with working on a project like Mad Max in Namibia in the deserts.
Mad Max was amazing. The desert, the Namib Desert. Were you in the Namib Desert? Were you in Namibia? The Namib Desert in Namibia.
I was close to what's the name of the town? Sokmund. I forgot the name. The beach town on the coast.
Swakopmund.
Exactly. We were shooting the dunes there.
Excellent. It's rough conditions. It's rough conditions in the desert.
Exactly. I mean, we shot a small scene of a funeral, pressing the ashes, and I was operating, and also signing the photography, and we would shoot. Half the day was cleaning the equipment and half the day was shooting because of so much sand being mixed up with the
sandstorms. We had exactly the same problem. Well, we always have the same. I've shot multiple times in Swakopmund, and every time one of the big problems there is the sandstorms. It's unreal. But Mad Max was an amazing project. It really was. It was everything for real. I don't know in my lifetime if I'll ever see another project like it. I hope so, because there's rumors of them doing another couple of the Mad Max series. But it was one of the best movies to work on. I think it was really insane. George Miller is an amazing director, and his ideas just kept changing, and it was just so much. It was such a good. I think they were working. I met guys that were on the project, and you speak to them. They were young boys, and you ask them, how long have you been doing special effects? And they've been doing it for about 3 years now. And you ask them other jobs they've worked on, and they all said, no, Mad Max was the only job. They'd been working solidly on one project for 3 years. From Australia, they came. They were supposed to shoot 10 years ago. They were supposed to shoot Mad Max in that same location. 10 years before the shooting, they were supposed to shoot it in Namibia. It got cancelled in Namibia. They went back to Australia. Then they were jet set to shoot it in Australia. And then there was rain. There was rain out in the outback, and they couldn't shoot it because the desert that they were supposed to shoot in became a Serengeti. It was all beautiful, lush grass. So they came back to Namibia to shoot it. But that was really, really an amazing project. Just other than the fact of the natural elements that you were dealing with, the sun and the wind and the sand, obviously, it really is a good place. It's a good location to shoot as well. On the off time, we really did have good. And then I ended up doing the meeting over my iPhone, because the computer couldn't receive the link.
You broke up there in the end. I didn't hear the last part before you said about the iPhone.
Sorry, I've got you on my phone. I haven't got you on the laptop because I couldn't receive the link on my laptop.
Oh,
and someone just called. Sorry, over the phone. I'm busy using the phone to do the video. Sorry.
Oh, I see. No problem. Totally understand. But what was your major function on that show in terms of special effects?
On Mad Max?
Yes.
On Mad Max, to be honest with you, I was on it for 3.5 months. I was in Namibia on the preparation. And one of the gags that we did, I'm trying to think, one of the gags that I had to do was the chainsaw. It started out as a chainsaw that had to come out of one of the vehicles and cut one of the stunt guys. But they ended up changing it. That's why I said George Miller just kept changing the effects, the colors of the cars. People were working months and months and months just on different projects on the cars, the crazy things that the cars could do. And the two things that you would remember from the movie, the one was the Nux car when the guy's sucking the gasoline from the deposit and he blows the car up. So that we were doing the tests and the prepping of that specific gag. And the other one was the Nux car gag, and the other one was the chainsaw. That I think he ended up changing it for a circular saw that was coming out of the one action vehicle, which was crazy. Everything was really so for real on the movie. I don't think we'll get another movie with that much real physical effects in it. It was an amazing project.
Because I mean, nowadays that so many things are going into post-production special effects and to adding a chainsaw in post or adding a gunshot in post, you come a lot more from a physical production of special effects. And how do you see maybe trying to get the best of both worlds? What are your views of how we can implement something in production and something out of or in post-production to get a more interesting or most interesting effect possible.
I've got a terrible line with you. I've got a terrible connection. Did you say how are we working hand in hand with VFX?
Exactly. How are you working trying to combine these two things, the effects on set and the effects afterwards?
Yeah. Well, I don't personally, our company doesn't personally do any VFX. And I remember the big VFX scare that we had maybe about 10 years ago. All the physical effects guys thought we were going to be out of a job with all the computer generated effects coming in. But we're working quite nice together. I think that the big scare is over, and we have lost a lot. We have lost a lot of things to the VFX department, but I think everything as a whole in the film industry, the big set decorations that they used to do, the big refugee camps and things like that in big movies. Done a few jobs in Morocco where we had to reconstruct big refugee camps and things like that. Whereas nowadays the VFX has done away with all of that. So in many different departments, it wasn't just the special effects department where they were sort of digitalizing things in. They were eating part of the film industry as a whole, the digital department. And but I think that the directors really still like to work with physical effects. I think it's a director thing, and they like to see things at the moment. I think it's all a very, and at least in the impression that I'm getting from a lot of the films and the actors that we work with is that if they can do it physically right there and visualize it, you know what I mean? I think that it helps everyone. It helps the actors, I think, to physically have a lot of the stuff we do, even when we do big sets and things like a lot of the people say, but the smoke you've got over there or this fire, it's not really on the camera at the minute, you know what I mean? It's not, but you're setting the scene, which is quite great, you know what I mean? It's better. I don't know how the actors do it all on a green screen like that. I think it's terrible for them to feel normally on the film set, and I love being a part of that. Yeah, it's true. A lot of the stuff we do is just to even, I've been with directors and when we were shooting Fury with Brad Pitt, it was really a good movie, and the director that we were working with was he really made you feel as if though you were part of the war, you know what I mean? We were all in there and we were shooting many nights and many everything, and once the crew's in that sort of mode as well, that they really feel that you are in the war, I think that's a big part. And I think doing physical effects is part of that. We can help set the scene, that just even a bit of atmosphere in the background, just a bit of smoke can change so much on a film set, you know what I mean? And yeah, I think in our time anyway, I think the younger generation is starting to get a bit of a trained eye for digital, if you will, you know what I mean? I think a lot of them, the taste in the future, I think, has just been bred into the younger generation. And I think eventually the people will look back at physical effects the way we look back at the Rambo movies, Rambo 1 and all of that, and think to yourself, gee, you know what I mean? We've come a far way. And I don't know at what point the full transition will come in, but I do think eventually it will become, a physical effect will become something of the past. I think it will just be for the taste of the digital feel. I think so. But yeah, I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime. I think we'll still manage to ride the physical.
Do you think there is enough, or that there could be a stronger conversation between the physical effect department and the VFX department, where, for example, they were going to do an explosion in the background, and maybe the explosion might not be physical, but maybe the smoke could be physical, or the light coming from the explosion could be physical, where we could be combining both things?
I think a funny thing sometimes. But Spain has offered a good tax incentive for international movies brought to Spain, and I think that in particular is going to help a lot for the sector in Spain, the Spanish sector. Because before they were more interested in tourism and things like that.
I wanted to
For my money,
come back to what we were talking about in terms of world production, where I was saying that when we were young, the idea of us seeing these shows from different parts, of course, we were bombarded by American shows, and we had our national shows and maybe one special production.
definitely.
But now, yeah, I mean, we have the luck of working on something that not many producers know that we would probably do it for free.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that.
And let's hope they never find out, because
Exactly.